Hi everyone. Today I'm going to show you how I made this simple demo application here with a Python and Flask backend and a front end designed in React. It's a simple application to demonstrate the basics of authentication, but you can't really tell the UI here. I'm handing the client side a JSON web token once I authenticate. The JWT token I can use for subsequent transactions. Behind the scenes, there's a REST call to my Python app that sends over a random integer between 1 and 6 inclusively. In order to take advantage of the server-side API, I need to present a JWT token in the header. I am dividing the app design into 2 to 3 separate videos. This video, we are not going to be touching any React or any JSX for this matter. We will design our server-side authentication with Python, Flask, and Flask extension JWT library that does a really nice job of simplifying the JWT token handling within a Flask application. I already have a Postgres database set up with a user table that has 3 columns, an ID, username, and password. I can provide a more detailed video on Postgres setup if needed later down the road. We will also use Postman to interact with the server side. I opened a new folder within VS Code. I'm going to use the integrated terminal to create a virtual environment using pip env. We are going to install the libraries that we need Python-wise, so Flask and Flask JWT extended. I'm adding these to access my Postgres database. SQL Alchemy so I can easily map Python objects to database tables. Python.env to easily interact with env files. Creating an env file will be necessary for this project. The env will contain various constants, such as the JWT secret, which is a long random string that we use to sign a JWT token. A secret key is needed to prevent from being forged by a malicious user. And unicorn, just in case I want to deploy to Heroku later. Cool, now let's start creating files. First, I'm going to create that env file I just previously discussed. I am going to specify my JWT secret. Next, I'm going to create 3 files, factory.py, extensions.py, and app.py. I will include any libraries used by Flask in the extensions.py, so they're accessible to other points of the application, not just app.py. This will make sense in a few, just bear with me. First, I'm going to import both flask.env and both extensions from extensions.py. I will create this method here. I will load.env to locate the env file in my folder. I will initialize Flask. We will make sure Flask is aware of the JWT secrets. Now I'm going to grab my database info and create a connection string. We are going to add our extensions to Flask using an it app for both the JWT and SQL Alchemy. I will create my app.py, which is going to be dead simple since I'm just calling this method we just made in the factory.py, and we're going to tell Flask to run. I will create the folder structure for these two blueprints that I mentioned earlier. I will put them in separate folders just for organization's sake and include their implementation in their own respective routes.py. First, let's start with Auth, which will handle authentication and handing over tokens. Let me put imports here. Flask JWT extended since we're going to need to create our access token here. Workazoid security to generate a password hash and to check the hash. We are going to need the SQL Alchemy extension that we created in extensions.py for the database. Shoot, one more thing I need to create is a model class so SQL Alchemy can associate the user table within my Postgres database to a corresponding class. We can whip this up pretty quickly. Import this model object. Next, we are going to create our blueprint here. This blueprint is going to have two REST calls, one for registering, which will be a post. For simplicity's sake, I'm not going to have a confirmed password field sent over, just username and password. We are going to check if this user already exists within the database. Hash the password, create the user object, and send it down to SQL Alchemy for it to be created. Let's create the login call. As before, we will need the username and password. We could just copy and paste it from here. Grab our user from the DB and also confirm the password hash matches what is stored in the database. If these conditions are met, we will create our JWT token and place it within our response and return 200. And if somebody enters wrong credentials, we will be vague and just return a 401. Next, let's start adding on to our blueprint for the API. Import Flask JSONify and create the blueprint. From Flask extensions, we're going to need JWT required. You'll see soon how this thing works. Finally, random int to produce our dice roll. We will return our integer, but last but not least, the magic part, the JWT required. You will see how this works later once the user includes the JWT token within the header. Back to the factory.py, let's make sure we import these blueprints. Now let's do python app.py and we should be ready to run Postman. First, let's register a user under auth/register. We need to construct a JSON object with our desired username and password. Next, we could check if we receive a JWT token from the server from the login endpoint. Cool. Now we can use this to access our protected API. Name of the blueprint and endpoint, and also remember it's a get, not a post. We go to the header section and add this token. And we get our random number. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Once I have some more time, I will compose a tutorial for the front-end React page. Until next time, have a great rest of your day.